Okay, how to create a rich learning environment. We definitely need the proper materials. This is a bit of an outline of what we're going to unpack here. Increased wait time, you'll hear a little bit about that. Repetition is so important for little kids. My son wants me to read the book over and over and over and over and over again. So the books end up sometimes behind the couch because mom needs a break from them. But the repetition is very important for kids. They learn through play, so make sure you're bringing in your playtime fun. Reduced demands does not mean reduced learning. The challenge when playing, sorry guys, this is another one. I should count my blenders. The challenge when playing with and teaching children with neurological differences is that they might not give you the same feedback that a another kid or your own kid might give you. So, as natural human behavior, we might actually, our behavior to play and engage might be somewhat punished or diminished if the kids are not looking at us and smiling and engaging the way we would intend. I want to encourage you to be mindful in yourself if you are in this type of a scenario where you're exposing a child to play and they may not seem as engaged as you think they should be, they may not be engaging in the way that you expect them to be, please do not let that punish, reduce, or diminish your active attempts and efforts at engaging them. Here are some good goals for this age. Across caregivers, varied stimuli is important, running records are helpful, and using play-based goals is very helpful. Here are some sample goals for this age. Please feel free to take pictures of any of these slides. I know you'll have access to the slide deck, but I like to grab pictures that I can pull up in a session or a training time with a technician. Sample goals for this age. Client will expressively identify a minimum of three items per session across 6 consecutive sessions. Now, we'll talk a little more, or I'll talk a little more about the number of trials. With these little guys, I think it's really important that we allow them to be successful. If I set a minimum of 3 out of 3 items as a goal, as opposed to 5 out of 5 or 4 out of 5 or 8 out of 10, I'm going to let my little people be more successful. They're probably not going to get burned out by me. They are going to be successful with much less response. I'm going to be successful. My technicians are going to be successful. That's what we're looking for when we're writing these goals. So client will receptively identify a minimum. There we go again with the 3 out of 3. 3 out of 3 items per session across 6 consecutive sessions. When doing the 3 out of 3 or the 2 out of 2 items, or the 3 out of 3 or 2 out of 2 trial criteria, it's helpful to use a running record. If you are not familiar with running records, I highly recommend that you look into them. They will help ensure some variability for your kids and also variability for your treatment team members. Client will imitate a minimum of 2 out of 2 actions. Again, guys, over the years, I've pushed this because I always think 3 out of 3, that's not enough. 2 out of 2, it should be 5 or it should be 10. That must have been conditioned and trained into me because 8 out of 10 is easier to figure 80% percentage, mastery. And anytime that I've been with little ones and I've tried to push past the 2 or 3, that's when I start getting into task refusal and elopement and kids wanting me to leave. So just some food for thought. We should be planning to generalize always. Please include parents and caregivers in programming and running trials. I can't say that enough. Please include parents and caregivers in programming and running trials. The programming part too. When we're going over our goals for their kids, make sure that you're not just handing them something and asking them to sign off that they saw it. You could set yourself a goal each session that you're there to talk about one different area. You could ask the parent to pick from 3 or 4 different ones. Please get them involved in the programming and the trials. Also include teachers or preschool staff if you have the chance to work with them. Including siblings and other family members is wonderful. Include your technician in the target selection. I like to do that as much as possible. Give a handful of examples and then ask the technician if they can add any on. Offer to accompany the family on outings. We should provide support wherever the child goes. Excuse me. Okay. Now, here's some more possible goals for the 2 to 5-year-olds. Client will remain seated and engaged in 10 different activities for 30 to 60 seconds each. I crossed out the seated because I think it's really unrealistic. Sorry, guys, I do. I think it's unrealistic for us to expect the little guys to sit, especially if we're supplementing their day and they've already been in school, being asked to sit down and do what they were told all day. Can we make it more active for them? So if you do find that you're writing a goal and you're putting the word seated, maybe ask yourself why. And also see if you can be a little bit more flexible with your expectations at all for this age group. Excuse me. So start with touching items in shaped 15 seconds, 30, 45, and then 60 seconds. The little guys, 2 or 3-year-olds, they can pay attention to something for up to 60 seconds. It might take a little extra shaping. If you're aiming for 60 and you get 5, great, celebrate it. That's wonderful. Client will complete a minimum of 5 FCT trials with 2 family members across 5 sessions. I like to split those up and also use, probability and parent interest. So if you happen to have more than one caregiver in the home, that's a good way to get everybody involved. You can write them a little script, have them try to get some echoic trials in with the kid, see if they'll do some receptive ID or even completion of a puzzle, something that would be a high probability, again, trying to build in the success with the parents and the children. Client will take turns a minimum of 2 times per session across 5 consecutive sessions. Now, if they are not ready to take turns yet, that is not surprising for this age, although some little kids are really exceptional at sharing. You could break down the goal like this. Client will hand items to others a minimum of 3 times per session across 5 consecutive sessions. If you're going to start with that, again, building for success, start with a neutral or non-preferred item. It doesn't really matter if the kid looks at you weird. I've even used a tissue before and said, can you hand this to your brother? Hand this to your mom. I have had kids when they're 5 or older start saying, why am I doing that? And I just say, to share. But start with neutral or non-preferred items and build to preferred. Client will take 3 out of 3 items from another person across 5 consecutive sessions. Now, the word take could be up for on the chopping block there, could be receive. It's very important, and you may have already done this as a goal, but maybe you haven't. It's important for us to make sure that the kids are going to be engaging if we're handing them something, and also that they can return something to us. So these type of goals are valuable for the teaching instruction and building that instructional relationship with the kid, as well as that social component of being able to share. Okay, here's a couple that I'm interested to hear what people think, yes or no, for goals for this age. So Susan will tack 8 out of 10 colors across 5 consecutive sessions. That one seems like a harmless goal to me. And then I also, does anyone have any comments about that type of a goal? I was fortunate enough to see Dr. Patrick McGreevy, who did the EFL, Essentials for Living, speak many times when I was learning about behavior analysis. And he really opened my eyes early on about these 8 out of 10 goals. Okay, if I'm expecting Susan to tact 8 out of 10 colors across 5 consecutive sessions, I'm asking Susan to tact 50. 50 colors. Now, unless we have like an artist pastel, an artist array of markers, little Susan might be being asked to tack the colors over and over and over. And then we run into the hoop jumping. So please, again, just be mindful of the trials to criterion when you're selecting it for these little guys. Also, 2 and 3-year-old kids sometimes are not ready to differentiate between colors. So you might want to more do play-based activity as opposed to traditional trials regarding acquisition of colors. Second one, Susan will tack 2 out of 2 colors across 8 total colors. Again, looking at the way that you're writing the goal, helping to ensure variety, reduce the chance of the child having to hoop jump, and also reduce the chance of the child becoming bored or disengaged. Jordan will receptively identify 8 out of 10 targets. I'm not going to get too redundant with this, guys, but I hope that I made my point that the trials to criterion selection is very important for these little guys. Here's another one down here. Child will engage in 0 instances of maladaptive behavior across 6 consecutive months. How many of you have kids 5 and under? I'm surprised you haven't heard mine screaming in the 40 minutes that I've been talking. How about instead of engaging in 0 instances of maladaptive behavior, the child will self-soothe or accept redirection within 30 seconds. So hopefully you guys are finding some helpfulness out of these slides. I did distribute a survey and there were 13 responses, which was kind of hard to get. And the question was, does your child cry or tantrum daily? And yes, and sometimes. So the answer is yes. So we can't expect little kids this age to not have meltdowns. And if we're being honest with ourselves, some of us might still have meltdowns, hopefully not daily. So crying, whining, throwing items, task avoidance, these are all age appropriate and common behaviors. It does not necessarily mean that the child is giving you problems. They're just reacting and acting in ways that are age appropriate. Just a couple more inappropriate goals. Client will engage in 0 instances of tantrums. Client will attend to non-preferred tasks for 5 to 10 minutes. Client will accept no for an answer without maladaptive behavior. Excuse the snarkiness. Client will complete DTT at a table for 80% of the duration of therapy sessions across 100% of therapy sessions. Please, please, please play with these kids. I had the opportunity to speak with my colleague, Mark Milady, which it sounds like he is here today.